reality is not a physical system like I alluded to in the past. It's consciousness. Everything that you see or experience is consciousness, different levels, gradations, and layers of consciousness. Consciousness is a very complex thing. And the way that you understand consciousness is by experiencing it and by being conscious of it. Who'd have thunk? See, my body is made of consciousness. This video, if you're watching it on YouTube, is made of consciousness. If you're listening to this as an audio, the audio waves that you're hearing are made of consciousness. Your ears are made of consciousness. Your brain is made out of consciousness. Everything is made out of consciousness. Why is this so important? You might wonder. You might say, well, Leo, what's the difference? Whether it's consciousness or it's atoms, what's the difference? There's an enormous difference. Because if reality is made of atoms, then that makes it seem as though reality is separate and distant from you. Again, it feels like you're falling into that scientific trap of like there's the object and there's the subject, and the subject is separate from the object. That means I'm over here and I'm looking at the atoms over there. But that's not your experience of reality. Your experience of reality is that you're meshed in with it. This physical room you're sitting in is a part of your head. There's no boundary between it and you. This is very important because this opens up a totally radical new possibility. Because if reality was separate from you, external to you, then there's always a sort of a boundary or a veil through which you can never pierce to get to the root bottom of reality. Maybe you can look at reality through a microscope, but you need a microscope. And even then, you're just looking at some atoms and it doesn't really reveal much about reality to you. But remember, our number one priority is to understand reality. And the deeper we understand it, the better we are able to live. Because reality is all that there is. So if you don't understand it, you'll be living poorly. And if you do understand it, you'll be living splendidly. So to live the most splendid life, you want to understand reality at the deepest level. And to do that, you need to understand that it's all consciousness. And you need, once you grasp this possibility, once you grasp that the object and the subject are actually interconnected, that means that you now have direct access to reality itself. Reality is not hidden from you. You're able to access it because it's all consciousness, just different levels of consciousness. And so the number one key to living a good life is to be more conscious and to raise your level of consciousness. And there are many levels and different degrees and states of consciousness. Right now, you happen to be in one state. When you're sleeping, you're in another state. When you're dreaming, you're in another state. When you're sexually aroused, you're in another state. When you're drunk on alcohol, you're in another state, and so on. Reality is infinite states of consciousness. That's all that it is. But it's very important what kind of states you're in. You can be in some very bad states, very contracted states, and you can be in some very good states, very expansive states. The more conscious you become, the more understanding you have of how everything truly is. The less conscious you are, the more you're sort of in a daze, the more you're a zombie, the more you're sleepwalking through life, the more you lie to yourself, the more you manipulate, the more selfish you are, the more fearful you are, the more petty you are.